Hey everyone, so today I'll be covering my Force Cup, and I know that the month of May is pretty much over, so this probably won't be relevant until maybe if they come up with Mirror Cup 2.0. The main reason why I didn't come up with Force Cup earlier is because I was just still trying to figure out my teams. The biggest issue was really that I didn't have a Ferrothorn, so I didn't feel comfortable putting out any specific strategy out there because it was definitely hard for me to work around. However, I was able to do decent in this tournament, so I'm going to showcase it. The big story here is really who won the tournament, and it was actually a person in their second tournament ever who was a trainer at the start of it, so you'll see more about that later. The team I ran with was Mantine, Swampert, Blaziken, Jumpluff, Shiftry, and Galvantula. And I essentially don't really have a Kingdra counter on my team, so we'll take a look at the footage and kind of see how I worked around that. So going into this first matchup, I'm going to go in with Swampert, Jumpluff, and Shiftry, and the main reason is because Swampert actually has a pretty solid matchup against most of this player's team. Really, I had to watch out for that Ferrothorn, and Mantine's not great either. Sludge Wave does okay against it, but it's not usually a matchup that you want to be in. So this Gastrodon actually is doing a lot more damage than I expected, and so I'm going to go quickly in and swap in with Jumpluff, and this is going to be able to tank pretty much anything that the Gastrodon is going to throw at me, and so I don't have to worry about shielding. And then now I'm able to draw out the Ferrothorn. So Ferrothorn is gonna beat this Jumpluff, so I'm not going to shield. And the big thing here is really Shiftry beats Ferrothorn in all even shield scenarios, even without baiting. Shiftry can even tank a Flash Cannon pretty comfortably and still survive for quite a bit of time after because those Bullet Seeds are resisted. And so Shiftry actually operates as one of my Ferrothorn counters along with Blaziken. And so there's a lot of times where I don't use Blaziken because I'm already weak to Kingdra, and Blaziken in a bad matchup just can't do very well. And then because I'm also not running Stone Edge on mine, it's going to really struggle against Mantines too. So as you can see, Shiftry is able to get to energy pretty quickly there. And then Mantine's actually a tricky matchup. It does do pretty well when it lands charge moves, but the wing attacks really stack up, and of course aerial ace and ice beam will really chunk away at it. So I was able to I'm going to undercharge this right now because the big thing is I actually want to lose this matchup so that the Mantine can't farm me down. And then, so now I have an extra snarl of energy, and then I'm going to drop my Leaf Blade. I do still have a shield, so I'm going to shield whatever comes out next. It's probably going to be a Bubble Beam. However, I'm pretty confident I could paste to another Leaf Blade in time, so it is a Bubble Beam. I'm going to drop this Leaf Blade, and I should be able to get to another one before they can get to an Aerial Ace. They might be able to get to a Bubble, but that probably won't be enough. So yeah, so definitely a tricky matchup. Shiftry in general was very underutilized in this tournament by a lot of players, I think, and not the specific tournament, but just the whole cup in general. So I'm going to go into this next matchup with Blaziken, Mantine, and Swampert, so definitely losing that lead matchup pretty hard. I am going to shield this because I figured it was probably Ice Beam counting how much it was for mine, and then I noticed that they didn't swap out. And because they didn't swap out, I'm thinking they really want to stay in there, and then so they end up shielding their Mantine, which is pretty solid because they have to grab a shield off of it. And then now my switch clock is going to come up a little faster than there, so I can quickly swap into Blaziken and kind of chunk down this Ferrothorn. So that's what you see I'm doing right there. And then at this point, no need to shield. That's going to prevent additional farming from the Mantine. And then I'm just going to go straight counter down and then go for a Blast Burn. Obviously, if it's a Stone Edge, it would be a little better, but I did not want to spend my Elite TM on it. So they brought in their own Blaziken, which is kind of interesting. And they don't shield, so now I'm going to come in with my Mantine and just debuff the opposing Mantine, and then probably go for a swap. Or maybe I'll just wait for them to... Actually, I'm going to drop another one. And then, I don't know if they're going to try to farm me down or not, but... oh, I actually grab a shield too. That's actually pretty huge. And then now I'm going to go straight for Sludge Wave. So I'm not going to shield this. And it does end up being a Bubble Beam, which is not ideal because... I think they still... Oh, no, this is their last Pokemon. Okay, yeah, so it's fine. Yeah, so I'm just going to go straight for the Sludge Wave. I'm not going to shield because I didn't want to be baited out, and I'll be able to survive an Ice Beam pretty comfortably. And so, yeah, so I was going to take out... That's round number 1. I'm cutting out the third matches if it's not relevant for the outcome for rounds, just to make sure that the footage is not too long. So I'm going against Medic Man right here, and going with Mantine, Jumpluff, and Shiftry. And so Shiftry also has a great matchup against pretty much all the electrics. Beats Galvantula as well without even having to bait with Leaf Blade. It beats it with just straight Leaf Blade. So I noticed that. So yeah, it was I think a CMP right there. So I'm just gonna let the bubbles go. But otherwise, I could have farmed down quite a bit. And then now my opponent brings out their Mantine. So this is a okay matchup because I don't plan on shielding the Shift Tree at this point. It's already done its job against Ampharos. So I'm going to just drop the Leaf Blades, and they're going to farm up quite a bit of energy at this point. But I'm not too worried, and so I'm going to bring in my own Mantine to soak up all this energy. It might be a Bubble Beam. It is an Ice Beam, but that's fine. I am still feeling pretty comfortable right here, and so I'm going to drop the Ice Beam and then probably swap out to my Jump Bluff right after this. Nope, I was able to take them out. I'm going to just tank the Leaf Blade right here and then swap into my Jump Bluff. Or maybe I'm trying to get the Bubble Beam. That's actually not a bad idea too, because now I get a debuff, and then I'm going to swap. But Jump Bluff already has a pretty solid matchup against Shift Tree, especially with shields down. I was able to draw a shield, which was even better. And then I'm not going to shield this because I figure it's probably a bait. I could survive a foul play, so there's no need for me to shield that. And then, yeah, so it would take him out. So it's good to see another Shift Tree. Definitely very interesting. Don't see those too often. So Galvantula, Jump Bluff, and Mantine. So great opener for me. And then now great counter switch. So even if this is Stone Edge actually would be kind of tricky, and it is a Stone Edge. I think if I was the opponent right here, I'd probably just shield and counter down because they probably would have won that matchup. But yeah, this is kind of a tricky situation for them because Galvantula is going to be able to check both Ampharos and Mantine. But I'm going to bring in Jump Bluff because I want to save my Galvantula for the Mantine, and if I could weaken down this Ampharos, even better. So I'm going to drop the Energy Ball. Yeah, and the Aero Ace will be resisted. So they do end up shielding. I'm not. I guess I do shield this one, just because I don't want too much damage on Galvantula because it's definitely glassy, and so getting hit by a couple Thunder Punches can still definitely hurt it. So at this point, I let it go, and then I'm probably going to swap straight into Galvantula just to prevent any additional farming. This is not great for the opposing player. I believe I shield this, even though it's a Bubble Beam, just in case it wasn't. Yeah, unfortunately, I pressed the charge move too soon. But either way, now I'm going to farm down, and I'll have a Bug Buzz ready. And that's going to be able to take out Ampharos, even with the debuff, just because Galvantula just hits pretty hard. Oh, actually not. It's not a one-hit KO. But this next Volt Switch should have been able to do the trick. Yep. Alright, so that was the second round. Going into third round against First Olympian, I'm going with Mantine, Shift Tree, and Swampert. So the interesting thing is he's not running Fairthorn in this lineup, so my Swampert actually has a solid amount of play, and he ends up not shielding the Hydro Cannon either, so that puts me in a pretty good spot. And so now I'm going to just drop Sludge Waves on the Jump Bluff. Hydro Cannon is kind of a waste because if he doesn't shield it, then it's just gonna, not really do that much. And so he goes in for Aerial Ace, which is actually not a bad move because now he gets to farm extra. Energy Ball is definitely kind of overkill, I guess, in that situation. And so now I'm going to bring in my Mantine. I'm not going to shield because even if it's an Energy Ball, I could tank at least 2. And so I'm going to go straight for the Ice Beam because I'm at shield advantage too, unless they go for double shields, which he does. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And I'm going to shield here. I thought that one might have been an Aero Ace, but I'm able to shield the right move. I do get a defense drop, but I am able to get to this Ice Beam in time. And I'm going to go quickly swap in my Shift Tree. So again, like I said, Shift Tree is solid against Kingdra, especially in the 0 and 1 shield scenarios. And with a shield advantage as well, I'm in a pretty good spot. So I'm going to shield this. I should be able to still beat it even if I didn't have to shield the Akatsuka, but I'm just going to play it safe for sure. And then able to drop this Leaf Blade. So yeah, so that's the first match. Going into the second one, I am going with Shift Tree, Mantine, Jump Bluff, hoping to catch a Kingdra lead, and I do, which is really useful. Crustle was honestly the biggest thing I was worried about on my opponent's team. Fury Cutter and Rakuto both can be problematic, so I, was mostly worried about that. But luckily, it didn't seem like my opponent brought it for the first 2 matches. So I do go for the bait right there because they've already seen my Ice Beam, so they know that pretty much can one-shot the Jump Bluff at this range. And I'm going to go for Ice Beam at this point and see if they double shield or not. And it looks like they don't. And so now they're going to bring in their Kingdra, and I'm going to go straight for the Ice Beam. Ice Beam still does quite a bit of damage to Kingdra, so they do shield right there. So that's a pretty good situation. And then now I have Shift Tree with energy, so I'm going to drop the Leaf Blade. This is pretty huge because they can't throw a charge move at me yet. And then I try to go for a quick swap just to tank whatever move that Kingdra threw. But either way, now that it's Outrage, I kind of know. And then so now they bring in the Crustle. So it is the Fear Cutter variant, which is actually pretty tricky for my team. So I mostly stay in this because I didn't want it to have all this energy and then throw it on my jump bluff. I want it to waste the energy first. And then now I'm going to go in with the energy ball. Because the Kingdra's pretty low in the back end, I'm not too nervous. But as you can see, that Crustle is kind of an issue for my team had it been matched up in the right situations. But yeah, so fortunately I was able to take it out and then was able to drop the Aerial Ace. That was actually pretty close because as you see, my jump bluff is pretty low on health at this point. Good games there. And then going into my 4th round, I am bringing in Shiftry, Galvantula, and Mantine. Again, was able to catch the Kingdra lead, which is great. A lot of people tend to lead with Kingdra just because they don't really see Kingdra counter on my team, so they expect that they can win switch advantage if they just shield everything. I am going to let this one go, the Octazooka, and then because now I'm going to just drop the Leaf Blade and force them to shield or see if they let it go. So they end up not shielding, or they end up shielding, so that's fine. And then now I have Galvantula. Galvantula can really farm up quite a bit of energy. I'm going to shield this Octazooka right here because it does do a decent amount of neutral damage. And I was hoping there was no attack drop, but unfortunately there was. So now I might have to switch out depending on what it is. So I do quickly switch out to my Mantine. I don't know if this is a great idea or not, but the problem is with that attack drop, Galvantula has a much worse matchup against the Ferrothorn, and this is actually going to be a great situation for me because now my opponent is going to be able to get farmed down by my Galvantula, and it's also Aerial Ace, which is not terrible, but I'm going to drop this Ice Beam mainly because I don't want to be I don't want to have to deal with having to worry about shielding Aerial Ace or not. And then so now I'm going to have to get a single Volt Switch off, and that's going to be pretty good. And then let's see if I can land this Bug Buzz. I do. Now this puts me in a really good spot because now I don't have to worry about landing another one. I'm going to just go straight Discharge for my next 2 moves, and that should be able to seal it. I still have a shield on my side, and so does my opponent, but as you can see, I'm pretty close to my Discharge at this point. And then I'm to drop it. So that was really good. And going into my next matchup, I'm going to lead Galvantula with Shiftry and Jump Bluff. So I run Double Grass quite a bit, and it's pretty solid against my opponent's team because they have the Whiscash. The Shiftry checks Galvantula, Ferrothorn, and Kingdra and Whiscash. So essentially it checks 4 out of their 6. So unless they're bringing in Blaziken, it's really Mantine worried about. So I do let that one go again, just because now I have quite a bit of energy lead on Shiftry, and then I'm pretty much hoping that, I guess Jump Bluff and Shiftry in the back can handle it. So if this Blaziken, it wouldn't be the worst case scenario, just because I am able to drop Aerial Aces, but it's actually going to be Galvantula. So I'm going to so I do shield this, I guess, because the main thing is this Aerial Ace is not enough to take it out, so I want to be able to kind of potentially farm a little bit extra energy. They do end up matching shields, and then it ends up being Ferrothorn. This is actually a pretty good situation because my Shiftry can pretty much check both Ferrothorn and Galvantula in the back, and so I'm just going to save that shield for the Ferrothorn, or for the Shiftry. And then just keep whittling down this Ferrothorn right here. And so the big thing right here is I'm going to go for a quick swap. And then they probably going to throw a Flash Cannon at this point, so I'm going to have to shield this. And after that, it ends up being Power Whip, so they end up baiting me, which is not ideal, but I believe that I could probably get to Leaf Blade in time against this Galvantula. So I do go straight for Leaf Blade. Unfortunately, they had a charge move ready, but it turned out to be Discharge, which is perfect. Had I known it was going to be Discharge, I would have waited a little bit longer just to get to that foul play, but I should be able to get out with a Snarl. So, GG's right there. Alright, Ian Shadow. This is a very interesting match. So, I was looking at this player's trainer card, and it was interesting because, or Sylph card, because they're a trainer, and this is their second Sylph tournament ever. And they were doing really well at this point. So at this point, both myself and Ian Shadow were undefeated. And I think we're the only 2 undefeated left in round 5. And what I noticed is that Ian Shadow pretty much went through the entire bracket and the bottom portion of the bracket, and also beat out another elite trainer right before me. So I was like, okay, this is I don't think this is just beginner's luck, because that's a pretty impressive run at this point too. And so I'm going to go for a quick swap right here, knowing that he swapped in a little late. So I believe I shield the Solar Beam. Yeah, figured that's a Solar Beam. So now I'm going to be able to farm down this Cast Form. And I know this is going to be a weather ball, so I'm not too worried. I'm just going to go straight farm down. And it's going to put me with quite a bit of energy with Mantine. And now they come in with their own Mantine. I'm going to throw the Bubble Beam and see if I can draw a shield. And unfortunately I can't, but now I'm going to draw the Ice Beam. And let's see if this is going to work. And so they don't shield again. And then now it's going to be Kingdra. So Kingdra is going to be tricky right here. Like I said, I don't really have a strong Kingdra counter. And so I'm just going to go for the straight debuffs and see what we can do here. And so I'm going to go in with a second debuff. And he ends up shielding too, which is very interesting. So I'm going to drop in my Jump Bluff because he has to throw the Outrage to take it out. And then now I'm going to quickly go in with Shift Tree and then drop a Leaf Blade. And because the Dragon Breaths are debuffed, I know Octozooka's not going to be able to take me out as well too. So that was the first match. Now going into the second match, he goes in with Mantine again, and it's actually a very safe pick for him. So both Mantine and Kingdra check my team pretty hard. So before, when I was running Shift Tree, the biggest thing I had to worry about was Mantine and some fire types. However, he's also running Sunny Castform and Jump Bluff and Heracross. So my biggest counter to Kingdra is getting checked by pretty much 4 out of the 6 on his team. And so it's making this matchup really hard to play, and I think it's a very great call and read by Ian Shadow to notice this. And so I'm not going to shield this just because I figure it's probably Weather Ball, but also I'm kind of behind too. So I'm going to go straight farm down. And then now I'm going to probably drop the Sludge Wave, for the Kingdra. At this point, I probably could have baited, but I chose not to. That might have cost me, though, because I'm able to get the second Sludge Wave. So I guess it's not the end of the world. It does do quite a bit of damage. And then now I'm bringing in my Mantine because I didn't want to farm too much. And then he brings in his opposing Mantine. And I'm going to just drop Bubble Beams. And I was able to grab the shield, too. So that's pretty huge. However, my Swampert is pretty low on health, and so yeah, this is gonna be really tricky. And I'm trying to farm down, but I can't, unfortunately, because I figured that he was going to be pretty close to Bubble Beam, so I have to drop the Bubble Beam. Unfortunately, he also gets the Bubble Beam in time, so even if I went for, yeah, this is tough. I unfortunately I don't have enough energy or health to deal with this Kingdra. So great match right there. And going into the third match, he ends up leading Mantine again. Mantine 3 times in a row lead. Very gutsy play, but also a really great call. And so I'm going to go straight for the Bubble Beam and trying to bait out a shield because I really need that Mantine to check his Castform when he brings it back. And so I was able to draw a shield too, so this puts me in a pretty good spot. I'm going to now just go straight Ice Beam to try to win switch advantage right here. And he is going to go Bubble Beam. I'm not going to shield. And at this point, I feel pretty comfortable. I think I plan on just farming down after throwing a Bubble Beam. And so that's going to put him pretty low. So even if he throws an Ice Beam, I should be able to survive this decently. Yeah. So, and he goes in for a quick swap into Kingdra. Here's the problem though. That Kingdra had an energy advantage. So this is going to be really hard for me to deal with. And I believe I shield right here too. But now I need 2 Leaf Blades to get this Kingdra down, and I got an attack drop, so that's not gonna be good too. And unfortunately, I can't get to it. Had I came in head to head with the Kingdra, it would be a different situation. But because that Dragon Breath really chunks away, I unfortunately can't. I thought I had a little more health on my Mantine, and at this point it's pretty much over. I haven't even seen his third Pokemon, but that Outrage I knew was going to do a ton of damage. And I'm going to have to drop this Hydro Cannon no matter what. And yeah, so we'll see what his third Pokemon is. Jump Bluff. So it wasn't going to matter anyway. So great games to Ian Shadow, beating 2 elites at that point. And yeah, so now we're going into the final round against McPvP. And he is bringing the Magnezone. He's a huge fan of the Magnezone, so I figured he was probably going to bring it too. Magnezone is actually really solid against Mantine, so that was a great matchup for him to lead off with. However, I was banking on the safe swap of Galvantula and the power of that to really carry me through. So I'm going to shield here and then probably go straight Volt Switch down. It's going to be really close, but I am able to get that through, and then I'm going to probably just go straight discharge. Figuring that was probably going to be Magnet Zone, but also I didn't really have that much time to use a different move. So he does actually drop a move as well. It's going to be Mirror Shot. It's not going to be super costly in energy, but now I have switch advantage. This is going to be pretty good, and then now I can cover this jump lift as well. So I'm going to probably go straight Ice Beam. I think what I'm probably going to do is, I don't want to farm too much, because the biggest issue is really I don't want that Magnet Zone to farm me down too much, and I'm going to go straight Bubble Beam just to kind of reduce some of the damage I'm going to throw at my Shift Tree. Even though Shift Tree resists the Wild Charge damage, it still could do quite a bit, especially after its recent buff. So he's going to hit me with the Wild Charge. I kind of expect 2. But as you can see, Shift Tree still able to tank pretty well at this point, no matter how, even though Magnet Zone is very attack weighted. It ends up not being double Wild Charge at least. But he's going to throw a second Mirror Shot as well. So, and I think I got debuffed as well. So Shift Tree really tanking 3 charge moves right there. But that debuff from the Mantine definitely helped in that situation as well. So definitely an interesting matchup. So in this next one, I go with Swampert and Blaziken and Mantine. And so I brought pretty much 2 Magnet Zone counters just because it gave me some issues last time. But let's see how this one plays out. So I think I overcharged a little bit just to throw him off. Oh, and he goes for a quick swap. Very, very good swap right there. And then I quickly go in for the Mantine because I'm thinking, okay, if he has Magnet Zone, I don't really want to deal with it. Unfortunately, I shielded Aerial Waves, so that's not great at all. I am going to throw a Bubble Beam, hoping to draw shields, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. So this actually puts him in a pretty good spot. And so now I'm probably going to farm up some additional energy. He does go for a second Aerial Waves though, so that's not too bad. And then looks like I'm going to just go straight Bubble Beam just so that I have some energy ready for that Magnet Zone or whatever's coming next. He does go for a quick swap out. I'm going to let this Hydro Cannon go, and let's see if it takes me out. Nope, so that's pretty good. I go for my own Swampert right here. What I could have done, yeah, I don't know, because that Bubble Beam wouldn't have helped too much, and then now because he's up a shield, I can't really win this mirror unless he chooses to let the Swampert go. So this actually puts me in a really tricky spot because remember, I have Blaziken in the back, and Blaziken with no shields against the Swampert is going to be tricky. Luckily, he does let the Hydro Cannon go, but he's still up a shield. And so what I'm pretty much hoping for at this point is that he has Magnet Zone in the back. However, Magnet Zone landing a Wild Charge can still be tricky. Unfortunately, it's a Mantine. So I'm going to have to bait with Blaze Kick, just draw shield, but this is pretty much over, especially because I don't have Stone Edge, and he was able to get the Bubble Beam, and it would take me out. Yeah, and unfortunately I didn't have enough health with that, and he's able to take out the Blaziken. So going to the final match of the final round for the tiebreaker, I'm going with Mantine against the Magnet Zone. Again, a terrible lead situation. I'm not going to shield this because it's going to resist everything, and it's probably going to be a Mirror Shot. It ends up being a Mirror Shot. And luckily there was no, I think it's an attack drop or defense drop. I forgot which one it is. So I do throw the Bug Buzz, and at this point I'm committed to double shield and Scout Vanish. I need to win switch advantage. Shift Tree is not the greatest against Magnet Zone, but Mantine cannot handle it at all. So what I really need to win switch advantage at this point. So I am going to double shield, and then I should have a discharge ready. So let's see if my opponent shields or not. And he doesn't, so this is actually really good. So I win switch advantage, and I still have quite a bit of energy to spare. So now I'm going to drop the discharge again. This is going to do quite a bit of damage if he doesn't shield, and I'm able to get to another discharge. So I think the thing is he was over farming a little bit. He could have probably dropped a Blaze Kick, but so now at this point he dropped so much energy, and then I'm going to be able to come in with Mantine and really just take him out right away, which ended up working out really well for me. So this is probably going to be a Wild Charge, but as we saw before, it's actually a Mirror Shot. Shift Tree can tank a Wild Charge, but now I'm just going to go straight Foul Play, hoping that it's enough to take him out. It's going to be neutral, and it does. So GG's right there to make PvP, and a big congratulations to Ian Shadow as well. So he ended up going into the finals against the third and last elite in the tournament, and he ended up beating him too. So he was able to sweep an entire tournament and beat 3 elites in his second tournament ever for Sylph. So big congratulations to him. He went from trainer all the way to challenger, I believe. I think he just skipped the rival tier completely, so definitely very impressive. Like I said, this video is a little bit late, but hopefully you enjoy the recap, and maybe it'll be useful for people down the road if there's a Mirror Cup 2.0. A big shout out to all my patrons who have supported me. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share. Subscribe for future content. Make sure you hit that notification bell too so that you get notified every time I post a video. And I'll see you all next time.